Hello out there. My name is Laolu Akonde and you are on to Inside Sources. Today I'm reporting from the New Jersey Constituency Office of Representative, that's the congressman in USA, Congressman Chris Smith, who is the chairman of the Africa Committee of the House of Representatives. He has been involved in some of the issues that have been going on between Nigeria and the USA regarding religious persecution in Nigeria. And a lot of the Nigerian community have been interacting with Congressman Smith, and that is why we are here today, reporting from there. But my take today is on the local issue. And here is my take for today. The humiliation of Wike and the limits of military involvement, lessons for all of us. There are a few reasons why social media went agog with delight when news of the young military officer who withstood Wike at that property in Abuja a few days ago. This includes that Wike, who is the strongman of PDP politics and is helping his real nation, to the distaste and displeasure of many. Number two, what went down between Wike and his godson, Governor Fubara, didn't leave Wike in a good place with the public. Number three, Wike sometimes verbose and outlandish TV appearances where he oftentimes throws caution to the wind. So these are the things that has brought Wike to be not in the good books of many in the Nigerian public. He takes pride in being the owner of Rivers Politics, and it was Wike's own chief of staff who said on national TV that local government elections in the state were written, the results were written in the government house. It was Wike who boasted that he would never join APC, so he invented a new version of the open desecration of party democracy in Nigeria's Fourth Republic. He does that by having his body dragging PDP to perdition, but his soul, on the other hand, so enthusiastically tuning melodies to the delight of the ruling APC, the party that he had said was infested with cancer compared to malaria, which according to him was the ailment of his own PDP. Besides his growing political enemies and foes, Wike, while doing some commendable work as Minister of the FCT, is perceived at best a mischievous entertainer in the public space, if not a very vivid reflection of everything that is wrong with the Nigerian political elite. So a few days ago, last Tuesday, when that military officer, the naval officer, stood his ground and went head to head with Wike, people cheered the young officer and they jeered at Wike. It was a dishonorable outing for Nyesom Wike, who was the former governor of Rivers State. It did no good. Whether this is the peak of Wike's sometimes crude mannerism, we can't tell. But for a minister of the Federal Republic, the public showdown on Tuesday at that disputed land property in Abuja is a national embarrassment for all of us as a people, and specifically for the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So, if Wike was wrong to have marched to the place to enforce the law and the regulations of the FCT against another offender, then the retired military officer who deployed public resources to defend his private property ought also to be scolded publicly. Both of them ought to have approached the court to settle this dispute, not to embark on an illegal journey of self-help. That was what both of them did. They resorted to self-help. This is why the views of those who say this is a fight between two sets of power elites in Nigeria, an elite that is accustomed to an absurd show of raw power, where following the rule of law is an exemption and public interest at best a cloak, if at all it is in play. However, this is lost on many of those cheering and jarring one side or the other. The fact that this is actually a fight between two powerful elites, a very bad fight. Besides, should the military in a democratic civil government be interfering with matters of civil law enforcement, not being the agency responsible for internal security? Why did the military officers step out of bounds and step up to the arena of civil life, dressed in uniform, to assert their authority, without any delegation of that authority from a designated civilian agent, e.g. the president? At least on that scene, a troubled spectacle no doubt took place. Yet, Wike has the appropriate delegation of the president as the commander-in-chief. The young military officer, who has now won widespread admiration of many Nigerians, clearly was not unaware of this fact, or at least his bosses who sent him. Any delegation of order and instruction given to that cool, calm, collected young officer is improper, is illegal, and is out of tune. The whole of Abuja FCT is in the hand of the president, and he has given that authority to Mr. Wike, at least at the moment. Now, we've had the defense minister say that he will defend any officer in the discharge of their lawful duty, but let the truth be told, even if this truth favors an otherwise derided Wike, putting soldiers out there in the civilian space is illegal, inelegant, and improper, especially as the space in question is not an ungoverned space and it's not the barrack. So, in the final analysis, just as people are celebrating what is the defeat of Wike, even if he deserved it, we must remind ourselves that our patriotic and respected military rank and file officers in the military and all of them should not be involved in the civil spaces, except by the express instructions of the appropriate civil authority and using the proper channels. Bringing in soldiers to resolve public and private disputes has become the norm in our society, and many of us have resorted to this trick, which has become a show of questionable privilege and access to raw power. That tendency itself is a sad commentary on what has become the sometimes tortuous rigmarole of civil law enforcement in our country. But is that what the military is meant for? Is the military meant to sort out the issues in the civilian space? So that both Wike and his military antagonists have not served the public interest in what happened on Tuesday. And it is to the president that we now turn to use this opportunity to redirect not just the two sides in this matter, but indeed all of us as a people to understand the proper display of public decency and conformity with the due processes of the rule of law. And finally, there could have been an accidental discharge of the bullet. Wike or people around him could have been killed, and vice versa. And that would have been terrible. This is the reason why it's important for all of us to reflect and be sober about what happened, and for Mr. President to make sure that that kind of stuff never happens again. And there you have it. Issa Sources right back. And now you'll be seeing me in the studio. Welcome back to Inside Sources today as we continue our conversation on the future of our great country. I have with me, joining this conversation, an eminent Nigerian, a comrade in the real sense of the word, who is currently the Director General of the Michael Umodu National Institute for Labor Studies. I'd like to welcome to Inside Sources, Comrade Issa Aremu. Comrade, welcome to Inside Sources.
It's a pleasure, Laulu, and let me congratulate you for keeping this your platform.
Thank you. Thank
almost
you so
2 years running.
Thank you so much. So we normally start with a quick conversation on the future of our country. I mean, you have been engaged, actively in the labor movement, and now you are in government circles. If you look at where Nigeria is today, do you think we are on a trajectory to that great country that many of us believe is the destiny of our country?
Yeah, thanks so much. I mean, it's quite patriotic, this question. I think I have no doubt in my mind that we shouldn't give in to despair. I think I'm very well optimistic about Nigeria and about Africa. We shouldn't give in to Afro-pessimism. And what is it are we talking about? We've run effectively, as at the last count, almost about 7 presidential election cycles
since
1999. We had a sitting president that died, and through constitutionalism, we midwife the process. We shouldn't take that for granted. In some countries, that could have led to a lot of chaos. A president lost election graciously.
A sitting president.
He accepted a sitting president. I mean, I look at the website of INEC, 93 million registered voters. 93 million registered voters. That's the size of Egypt.
Yeah, well,
what I'm saying? What I'm trying to say here, that this democracy destination, we've also had 25 years of uninterrupted democratic process.
Actually, now 26 now.
Yeah, effectively 26. I mean, I'm happy you remind me. We've marked 65 years of independence. We are not South Sudan. We are not even the main Sudan. We are not Somalia. So all I want to say here is that there are definitely challenges, including the current one, which we are going through. And by the way, I would like to appreciate the statesmanship of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu is part of the tension. I mean, I share his optimism that Nigeria will definitely combat this terrorism. Just like the previous president have made effort to do so.
Okay.
So if you ask me, even take the platform we're using now. Channel 1.8 billion mark.
No, actually,
viewers.
More than 2 billion.
More than 2 billion.
Views.
Me,
on YouTube alone.
Yeah, on YouTube alone. And very soon, with your effort in 2 years, you've added to this. So what I'm trying to say here is that, we have our challenges, undoubtedly. But I'm very optimistic that this is a country that is still pursuing its agenda. But we have to do more, get a few more things done. When we were growing up, we used to have national development plan that has been abandoned. I think we need to return back to that.
Yeah.
The foundation that had been laid down was first development and second development. I told you, even when the military truncated democratic process, they had to adjust to the plan that had been in place.
Yeah.
It was even the plan that made us to weather the storm of the Civil War. So I think we need to return to planning. I just looking at the newspaper today, China is talking of $23 trillion economy in the next 5 years. They run 5-year development plan. And we almost started at the same time.
Yeah.
So all what
we're actually ahead of them in 1980.
Absolutely. So if you fail to plan, you're actually planning to fail. And I think we've seen prosperity. We have to return back to that.
Great. Okay.
Overcome the current challenges of poverty, insecurity caused by deindustrialization. We have to bring industry back. I used to my profile, which used to be in textile.
Yes, of course.
And which used to be labor intensive. I think we need to bring it back. If I advocated at one point recently that the president has tried to bring Ministry of Livestock, very novel, but the real ministry we should bring back is Ministry of Textile.
Okay.
Just like it's been done in Pakistan, in India, because that's also the same size population-wise. But the way to get the jobs created, sustainable job, is through labor-intensive industry like textile.
Interesting. Interesting. So a lot of things that you've talked about, very good comments. But I want to take you up on one or two. First of all, insecurity. There is a current development where the U.S. president has, said that, look, you guys, you're not fixing these killings. I'm going to come and help you. How do you think the president should respond? What should we do to what seems to be the offer of the Americans to say that, hey, let me come help you sort this out? What counsel will you give to the president?
Well, interestingly, with United States, we've been having this engagement historically. I could recollect when I was in NIPS, I'm also a member of National Institute.
And that's your button, right?
Yes, 2005, there was this big report, intelligence report from United States that Nigeria will collapse, in 15 years' time, from 2005. That comes to almost about 2020 or thereabout. That was the prediction. And they actually brought the report for us to analyze in NIPS. And there was a state of frenzy. That was under President Obasanjo.
Yes.
You even had to go to National Assembly to discuss it. So it has been a recurring issue. But, Nigeria never collapsed. We weathered the storm. As for the recent one by United States, I think so much has been said on that. And I think what we need to do is not to agonize, but to organize our thought. And that's why I thought the present response after this Federal Executive Council meeting is measured, is constructive. It demonstrates statesmanship, not brinkmanship, to accept that, exactly the same way we have been worried about this state of security, countries like United States is also concerned. Of course, United States is also different from Donald Trump. You have to know that Donald Trump has happened to many countries. This one is happening to us.
Well, the president.
In that way, but he's the president.
President.
I agree with you, but, and about religious profiling of what victims and the aggressors, we've come a long way on this. I personally didn't need President Donald Trump to talk of genocide in Nigeria as I've seen it in Nigeria. I've been in Kaduna. I'm a Kaduna man, very well. Right. I know of Sango Kataf. You remember of massive ethnic motivated killings. Ethnic religious crisis. We also have Sharia 1, Sharia 2. We've seen it all. In fact, it was under. I wouldn't believe that Kaduna could be so more partitioned. in which we used to talk of Jerusalem and the other side, the way we were partitioned. So we've seen it. So, but what I'm saying in summary is that as important as President Donald Trump has shown concern, we don't need to be reminded. They need to put an end to this insecurity.
Yeah.
And now that it's being managed in a much more constructive way, I think what we need to do is to continue the partnership, not just with US, but all the countries of the world that want to help us to put an end to these protracted security challenges.
Okay.
And I have no doubt in my mind, I learned America that put some resources for us to do what they call it, to buy arms. We're also supposed to have areas in which they will do training for us. That's the way to go. Because let me tell you, terrorism is global.
Yeah.
It's not peculiar to Russia. I mean, what terrorists want is this division, turn communities against themselves while they have their way, So I don't think we should give into that despair. But all I want to say is that we should continue the trajectory of this statesmanship, revive our diplomacy in a much more proactive way, also encourage people-to-people contact, whoever, the media soundbite in the age of social media, any crisis in one community is magnified, but it's different from where you are in Nigeria. I mean, we're at this studio. I came all the way from Ilorin to this place.
Just a big place.
We have challenges, that are taking place, but that doesn't mean that it's not insurmountable. And it is.
That's what we're trying to prevent, to preserve.
And between you and me, let me also quickly add this one since you've raised it, because security, if there's so much ingrained insecurity, all the numbers will not respond to that. Am I communicating? I mean, our external reserves has climbed up again.
Speaking of
$43 billion. The bond, Euro bond, which we subscribe for, which we floated, has been oversubscribed. So market response doesn't show that things are as bad as we are putting it. Even I was excited yesterday. I also saw a Nigerian female goalkeeper. What's her name now? It's the one being nominated as best football FIFA
female.
So in sport, in creative sector, even in labor sector, I was checking almost about 5 international labor federations. If Nigerian unionists are not president, we are vice president. In any case, I used to be vice president of Global Industrial, made up of 50 million workers worldwide. Wow. So I don't want people outside to change narrative for us. We should define who we are. I can bear witness what inside society is doing, not what anybody will say.
Okay.
So, but I think I'm happy that it has become a storm in a teacup, and I think we should move on.
Hopefully, I think that Mr. Trump's intervention is a turning point that we can take advantage of. Hopefully. But let's move on to more sector-specific issues. Not only are you the DG of the National Institute for Labor Studies, you were also a comrade, like you said, even a vice president of a global labor union.
Yep.
You mentioned the idea of a Ministry of Textile. I want you to talk a little bit more on how that can be transformative. I agree with you also that Mr. President did a good thing by saying that, okay, look, let's focus more on livestock, where we may disagree and say that, well, do we really need a ministry? The important thing is the focus. And he said, look, I'm going to give it a ministry. Fine. But you are saying that we should also do textile. So tell us very quickly, what do you have in mind? How can that be a game changer in our economy?
Why it will be a game changer is not even something we have to speculate about. It has been a game-changing sector for Nigeria before. The first textile mill was established in 1957 by the late premier of Northern Region. Yeah, it used to be
in Kaduna.
In Kaduna. That's Kaduna Textile Mill. And what was the whole idea? 100 years of British rule, we are just exporting cotton to Manchester, Liverpool. They go and do the ginnery, do the spinning, the weaving, they produce finished cloth
and bring it back
and dump them to us. And of course, they corner the market. It was a colonial economy.
Yeah.
They chase away Japanese. There was also a time they say Japanese, Korea, this inferior product. But
we even say when we want to condemn a product, we call it
Korea. You remember? That was the colonial economy, which was meant to turn us to producer of raw materials and consumer of finished goods.
Right.
But the pre-independence constitution that allowed for self-independence So regional government took advantage of that.
Right.
Sadano said, no, instead of exporting this cotton, we should start engineering, spinning, weaving. And that's why he established KTL. And before you knew it, in the next 5 years, other factories have joined. Aremu Textile, you have UNTL, that you have direct employment with about 25,000 workers that time. And
just in Kaduna.
Just in Kaduna. Then it was also a period of regional competition. And Chief Obafemi said, no, I don't need to have cotton here, but I can get cotton from the north and start adding value.
In the west.
And that's how you have Ikeja textile mill, which also became more bigger.
What about the Aswani, the one
on that? I'm just laying the foundation, and that Ikeja textile mill, Zik replicated in the east, and then you have Aba textile mill, and then the I think middle west,
right? Osadebe
also had a Asaba textile mill.
Oh wow!
And before you knew it, the thing caught on like wildfire. By 1983, we were the second largest producer of textile in the entire African sub-region.
Wow!
And that's where I'm talking about. The entire Ilupeju and Co. I will not design them as industrial estates.
Yes.
You have Aswani, you have ATM, you have a lot of factories. Then you also have a UNTL in Ikorodu. Ikorodu. Yeah. Okay. So what I'm saying is that at a point we have direct and indirect jobs, almost about 1.5 million workforce.
Oh wow!
By 80s. And then we already produce all fabrics, even lace. At the point, Nigeria banned importation of lace.
Yeah.
Our producers, I need all our markets, they are full of textile products we are producing. Now, that's the time.
All of that is gone.
Yeah, and the old INIDB, which now becomes a bank of industry, Nigeria Industrial Development Bank, they were meant to finance this industry that make them possible. Not only that, you have the rail. The rail network was linked to this factory.
To carry the...
Yeah, where you see the whole Ikeja zone, they bring the cottons, they take the finished goods, to the market, all over the country. So what I'm saying is that, and that's why we now have full employment. When I was in textile, Comrade Adam Simule, I joined him in the late 80s to work in the textile. Do you know that early in the morning, the textile manufacturers will be calling us to bring boys that will come and work.
Wow.
And girls.
And they needed more hands.
Yeah, we are running 3 shifts. At a point, we were moving to 4 shifts.
That was in Kaduna?
In Kaduna. Virtually the same in Lagos. Everywhere. In fact, at a point, we used to fight to say, no, 4 shifts, no, you are oppressing labor. That's so much.
But there was so much to do.
And when they close, 1 shift closes, when you see, thousands of workers, who are leaving the factory, some of them on their bicycle, some build their houses, they send their children to school. In fact, it was more profitable to work in textile, more rewarding. You get more pay than even working with Kaduna Refinery that time when it came up. And then many became senior weavers, they retired, they set up their own enterprises, small scale and co. So what I'm saying is that if this are delivered for us, jobs, sustainable jobs, which in fact made textile to be at the point, largest employer of labor, that even federal government. Oh yeah, look at the numbers now.
And this was as early as the 80s.
Yeah, 80s, but all of a sudden, but what was the miracle? We had planning, industrial planning, which allowed for this. It was a period of we're committed to import substitution.
Yeah.
The whole idea, instead of importing, the promise of independence, not just the flag.
Yeah.
We must have economic independence.
Yeah.
Produce what you can really feed yourself with.
Right.
You produce cloth, that you wear.
And then even export.
Export. And the case may be, in fact, we even had a factory, which is interesting, it's only one surviving. We have Checo.
Where is that?
Which are produced in Kaduna.
Okay.
We used to treat it because it used to be seasonal. It used to be blanket.
Right.
During Hamatan, and maybe military also get them.
And that one is surviving.
Yeah, that's the only one interesting that has been surviving. That survived in Kaduna. In Kaduna, it still exists. And even at that, it has good, stable, close to 500, workers.
So how do you think,
So I think what we need to do is that to revive this industry. Yeah. And I'm happy President Bola Ahmed within Renew Hope agenda is committed to reindustrialization. I've seen what we're doing in the refinery now. The whole idea of, instead of exporting crude. We need to revive. We partner with Dangote.
And some other minor.
Yeah, interestingly, even Dangote used to be in textile. In fact, we met him there, and it was when he was dying that he has to move on. If he bought the NTM, Nigeria Textile Mill in Ikeja,
oh wow!
As a matter of fact, he wanted to, turn it around until we were overwhelmed by smuggling, inappropriate policies, inconsistent in policy, and of course, collapse of electricity, in which is rather than for you to set up a new plant, you will go and buy generator, and some relocated. Most of them are also Asians, they have to. So what I'm saying is that we can't bring back this industry now through token policy. We need a whole ministry that can drive it.
Okay.
As a matter of, it's strategic, it's important to really get these youths off the road.
Okay.
Who are riding Okada, who are who are reserved for banditry, for kidnapping.
Yahoo.
Yeah, very well. In fact, the whole Cardinal Polytechnic was also established to provide necessary manpower.
Wow.
You have textile technology, you have engineers who work in this textile industry. So I think we can work out an engagement, with Ministry of Trade, of course, with the presidency, to make sure that you really need a whole ministry to drive this agenda.
Very important.
It will be very useful to really get our boys and girls off the street.
Excellent point. Excellent point. I want us also to talk about a few labor issues, before we round up.
Yeah.
And it will be good to get your insight as the DG of the Michael Modu National Institute for Labor Studies. Pengassin and Dangote, although it seems that the fight has gone down a little bit, there has been some intervention from the federal government. But what's your own take about what Pengassin is saying and what Dangote is saying? Dangote is saying that, look, you guys can't dictate for me, and Pengassin is saying that, well, look, your workers got to be unionized, What is your own take? You are a comrade, you've been in labor union, now you are in government. What should be the meeting point, comrade?
Well, as I said, my take cannot be more than the take of all the stakeholders. And I'm so happy that the Federal Ministry of Labor, led by the two ministers, namely Alhaji Dr. Gindadi, and of course the Honorable Minister of State, Kiruka Idiocha, as well as the two sector unions, Pengassin and of course Nopeng. They've also met with Dangote Group to find a way to resolve the crisis. Nigeria, but before I rub in that one, it's also celebration of the strength of Nigeria. Because Laulu, tell me a country where workers do not have the right to associate, to organize, to even go on strike, to protest. Or tell me a country in which we can't discuss the way we are discussing, freedom of expression. And I will tell you that country is not a democratic country. Nigeria has a vibrant industrial democracy process, long dated. People like Imodu fought for right to get unions to be done as far back as 1930s,
right.
To engage with colonial administration. But once we have our independence, our constitution allows for freedom of association.
Right.
And we've practiced that over the years. We also have vibrant labor movement, two labor centers. It used to be one before, Nigeria Labour Congress. Then TUC came on board later, which is also part of pluralism in the world of work, so that no center has monopoly of how to organize. We also have affiliate unions, which include these two sector unions. We also have vibrant collective bargaining process that has been put in place. But the missing link, which I see now, is that we need to do quality control of this industrial relation process. What I mean here is that we need to strengthen collective bargaining process. Maybe because of a long period of military rule. And we've assumed that the only way to make points in the trade union movement is to threaten, is to declare strike. Am I communicating?
Yeah.
But conversely, that's also understandable, because in recent time, government will not respond on time. Am I communicating? I'm talking about government sector. Yeah. I'm coming to Dangote's field. Right. When union make cases, as you have seen in the case of ASU, they will write, there won't be acknowledgement, and the rest of them. But all this cannot be excuse. Am I communicating?
Right.
For permanent adversarial industrial relations system, with something that we can talk it out, we can work out. Back to Dangote Enterprise, I mean, everybody is aware of what Dangote is all about. And this is where I share the view of the vice president, that Aliko is not just another investor. For us at this hour, it's an institution. It's an investment we will all put our effort to say we must reverse this permanent dependency on imported materials.
It's a matter of national security.
Yeah, $22 billion investment. So we cannot, as desirable as we must unionize, allow workers there to be free, is something we can do in a gradual process. In fact, there's what we used to call in the world of work, what we call transition period. There should be transition, what we call just transition, in which you allow new investors, if they come around, what time do we get this done? First, jobs have been created, because the bottom line is that if there's no enterprise, there can be workers.
There can be unions.
When I told you that we have big presence in textile, because jobs were already created. Factories have gone now. What can we unionize? In fact, textile union now rely more on the formal sector, tailors, who were ignored before.
Right.
But if those were so we need to be gradual in a way that we don't undermine industrial enterprise. And in the case of both Dangote and Penga and Pengerson, Dangote is also well tested. It's not averse to unionism. Even now, up to now, we have close to almost about 2,000 plus workers in textile that are under his group, because the cement factory has sack component. You produce a sack, which is done by textile worker, and textile union organize it, and he allows them to be unionized. Cement too, the same thing, he has presence there.
And they are unionized.
Yeah, so we need to use that model. Am I communicating to say, how did we get
to that point?
And we can apply that also to the Dangote refinery in the way that it will be win-win. He's interested, but he will ask for equity. He must come with clean hands. Don't also forget that for the petroleum sector, it's a bit more murky where we're coming from. There was one time he wanted to buy Kaduna refinery. We all oppose. Those who oppose it, Aliko may be very skeptical to say, are these my rivals or they are my partners to work with? So we need to find a way to have a solution to resolve it. But the way out is through the process of collective bargaining, negotiation, and we have all the instruments to get it done. The same thing I want to apply to even my colleagues in the universities. I'm happy now. ASU has suspended his strike,
right?
Because, again, the other day I was doing the checking. I don't know what the number looks like now, but for almost 50 months, ASU has gone on strike, since 1999. We should calculate that in the number of years, that's enough to graduate.
And even, comrade, if you look at it, just a point on that, this last strike of ASU, one strike they call it, it seemed to me that it's a strike that should have been avoided, because the minister came out and said that on the Friday leading to the Monday, all the way to Saturday and Sunday, they were talking with the ASU leaders. And the ASU leaders were supposed to come back to them on Sunday, and the next thing they had was about a strike. I thought that, that could have been avoided, just to continue the negotiation. But let's segue to pluralism in the industrial sector. What do you think about the idea of a second union of university academics? We have the Congress of Nigerian University Academics, Congress of University Academics, CONUA. And they have about 30 chapters, ASU has about 60 chapters. Do you think that is something that is useful, helpful in the industrial sector to have that kind of pluralism?
Yeah, not just that it's helpful, but I can say that it's consistent with the ILO principle of freedom of association. Workers have the right to join unions, of their choice.
Right.
I think we just took this for granted, because for a long time we have very progressive labor law.
Right.
That says there will be automatic check-off. Workers can have the right to unions, and over the years, unions have taken it for granted. But ordinarily, workers can also say, I want to join any union of my choice.
Right.
Don't also forget, for a long time, Nigerian Labour Congress used to be the only labor center.
That's true.
Until what we used to call senior staff say, no, we need our own labor center.
Yeah.
And then later on, metamorphosed to TUC.
Okay.
So
So TUC is the senior.
Yeah, well, it's
cadre.
at Zoom, but that has also changed nowadays.
Exactly.
But it's now what I'm saying that we have 2 centers.
Yeah, 2 centers.
Unlike before, and in South Africa they have about 5, 6.
Right.
In Europe and multiple centers. So the whole idea is industrial democracy. So for CON1, I don't think it's even academic now because CON1 is real. It's been registered. It started. It sought for registration 2018. But later on, they were registered 2022. And they made it clear in their own vision to say, wait, we are for the principle of collective bargaining, and that we thought strike should be the last option. Or should not be the immediate option. In fact, they argue it. I saw it on their website to say it has undermined university system as a whole.
And like you said, it has contributed to a lot of the damage in terms of the cumulative impact.
So, and I think serial members of ASU now know there's a limitation. Even this strike, you see, they didn't exhaust the 2 weeks.
Of course.
Before they call it off. So if you know it's not, why starting it for instance, when, through process of collective bargaining, we could have got it done. But what we solve this later is also that we must also strengthen labor education. And this is why my institute comes in.
Yeah.
Am I communicating very well? And I know Minister Ngige, when he was labor minister, he virtually made it mandatory that once the union leaders are elected, including employers association, don't forget they are also employers association, they also need knowledge about what unions are, and government officials too, because the idea of ASU writing repeatedly, and then you don't acknowledge, you don't call them on the last minute.
Breakdown in the communication.
It's completely uncalled for. Let them come for training.
Even they look at these resident doctors and nurses. And,
they are unavoidable.
They will say that they have not gotten any kind of response at all.
Completely wrong. It's wrong.
So what can your institute do? So
what the institute will do, and which it's been doing, is to make sure that labor is important. Labor creates wealth. That you can have an establishment, you have electricity, you have all the infrastructure, but when the working men and women are not well motivated, they are not happy, they can grant the enterprise. Labor should not be underrated. So what the labor institute will do is to, and that's why we're giving the mandate to say, okay, conflict will be inevitable in the world of work. Once you have 10, 5, or 50 people come together, they will demand for their right.
Of course.
But there are procedures for resolving the problem. Through negotiation, through discussion, you sign agreements.
So your own job is to train them.
Yeah, it's to train them, to build capacity.
Both in the labor unions and the employers.
And government relationship, as the case may be. And that one, we have to make it mandatory. In fact, Conwa had already come to our institute.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah, they were there 2 years, and they were, wow, that there are procedures for doing this. Because, before first you negotiate, if it fails, you can call the ministry to mediate. If it doesn't work out, you have industrial court, you have arbitration panel.
Right.
So there are procedures so that you don't really grant your work, as the case may be, because everybody is a loser in the case of indefinite total
industrial action. Yeah.
In fact, private sector cannot even afford it because
it's going to affect their profit margin.
Unlike public sector in which whatever it is they say pay you. So I think we need to really address that. Labor education is about the last one, which I want to rub in, is that we must address what I call crisis of compensation. Yeah.
Important point.
Laulu, we now have new working poor, who, unlike before, once you have letter of employment, you are working out of poverty.
Yeah.
Good pay, regularly paid, not delayed. Delayed payment is wage theft.
Living wage,
in which you are paid as a when due. We've crossed that bridge. I remember the former president Buhari was addressing the National Economic Council, and he was looking at the governor and said, how do you sleep?
Yeah.
When your workers have not been paid. So workers are, the state government were holding salary for months. Well, I'm happy this is a big clear off now. But what I'm saying is that even those who are being paid now, what are they being paid? Why will a lecturer have less than 1 billion naira?
It's terrible.
This is not, you don't need skyrocket, you don't need a strike to address that. So there must be aggressive effort to overcome this crisis of compensation. Then link that to productivity. Yeah. Because, it's not just that you are paid, you must do the work.
Yeah, but come in, so you have a very important role to play in this, because, and it's good that somebody like you is in government to engage with policy makers.
Yeah.
On the need to address, I think you call it compensation. What do you call it?
Crisis of compensation of no pay. No,
because somebody who used to say, he said that the government pretends to be paying, and then the workers also pretend to be collecting.
Yeah.
If you can't pay somebody a wage that will take them home.
No. If you take them to work,
It's
I
just,
mean, by Tuesday,
how do we expect them to be productive?
Tuesday, Wednesday, legitimately, workers can run the numbers for you why they can't come to work, because the money they have has gone into transportation. So we have to do so. But interestingly, the good news is that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu not only committed to minimum wage improvement, which he has done in recent times, but living wage. And he has also reduced the cycle of review from 5 years to 3 years now, which is even something we can still improve upon. In fact, UK copied from us the idea of minimum wage. I'm telling you, under Thatcher, she resisted minimum wage. Until there was a big bang riot.
That was a downright capitalist.
But now they do so every year, every April, they adjust it. Look at the trends, inflation and co. So we need to address it, but that now requires cooperation. Organized labor. And this is why the two labor centers, employers association, government must work together. We can't afford the luxury of this war of attrition. Permanent class warfare. In which we go on strike and then we talk at each other instead of talk with each other. And that requires coming together to negotiate on that. And I'm very happy. I mean, I have no doubt that this government is committed to that. So I want to say we need wage-led economic recovery. And it's smart economics. Money you pay workers, Laulu, you will buy basic things,
of course,
that will turn the industry around.
Them consuming power.
Absolutely.
So the level of consumption goes up.
Is the way to turn the economy around, to improve on effective demand.
All right. Last question, coming because of our time. We have just 2 more minutes to go.
Excellent.
I want you to comment on an idea of in the industrial sector. We've had too much. We talked about it. Too much strikes, which has become debilitating. Why is it that workers don't think about political action instead of strikes? In a democracy, these are elected political office holders. Why can't labor unions organize politically to say that, look, I mean, if you guys are not going to communicate with us, you are going to stand election in another 4 years and we're going to organize. Why is that difficult? Or why are we not talking about that?
Yeah, that's precisely what I'm saying, that we have to improve on promoting consciousness, literacy, on different options that are available in a democracy. Don't forget, we've been in the long period of military
and everybody
in which you just assume that, you just pray, you have a good head of state, you are helpless. Am I communicating? It's only the executive. But now in a democracy, 26 years after, we have to promote knowledge to know that you don't get anything done in democracy until you demand for it, you lobby for it, you push for it,
and you organize.
And you use your power of vote.
Use of power.
For instance, why can't we say 2027 election should be determined by labor issues?
Absolutely.
Who will create jobs? Who will pay minimum wage? Who will pay living wage? Interestingly, the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu was the only candidate who had a directorate on labor.
That
what brought me to. He knew the importance of that. Right. What I'm saying about labor could make it as an issue. I agree with you.
Instead of these strikes.
We have our senators.
The strike is destroying the poor people.
We have our reps, we have our senators, who you can hold accountable. The only way we retain you is to go and push this. Why would it be labor that will go and demand for improving pay when you have senators who could make that case for us on the floor of the assembly?
Effectively.
So we need, but that requires a new strategy. I get the point of new thinking. So just as the way we should stop underrating labor. Labor should not underrate. Labor should also not underrate its capacity. Am I communicating? To make things possible? So, and I think now you've said it all. Take the case of universities. The children of the poor are the ones who lose more in these public universities.
The ones that lose.
Am I communicating? Because the private universities are running.
They are running.
Yeah, and the rich go there. Interestingly, ASU is not even present there.
So that's the point.
They don't allow for. So
there must be a stronger way to deal with it, especially if we're talking about intellectuals.
Absolutely. And also talking about engaging with government, they will also take advantage of some few things that are taking place now. For instance, I know there's NEFOD.
Yeah, which is
National
very commendable.
What do you call it?
The National...
Education Trust Fund.
It's a fund for tertiary education for people to get loan.
No, it's loan for students, indigent students.
Tuition
and I saw the figure.
Everything.
They're almost hitting by Undersayer. He's doing a wonderful job, the MD there. They're almost reaching 1 million mark. Within this, which means on account of no money, no child can be excluded from going to school. And it's like bringing back, the bursary days, that we used to have in those days.
Although some people are saying that, look, just give us grants. But,
it's okay.
but I think in terms of this loan, it's very...
Yeah, it's even a gradual thing. We can even also include grant later. But at least there's something in place.
Yeah, there is.
I also know there's a fund which Minister Lausa, I think that's his name, put in place now. I think there's a fund which they are giving to empower lecturers too, teachers, so that they can do research, they can do. Those are also concrete proposals we can put on the ground. American will improve on it. Again, it's all part of political engagement.
Part of political engagement.
And on the last one, even for in the world of industrial relations, there are two types of dispute. There's what you call dispute of rights. Dispute of rights are those of entitlement. You have an agreement, it's not enforced. You are finished working, nobody pays you. You can apply pressure, including at times strike.
That's dispute of rights.
But for dispute of interest, that's something new. You want to revive the industry, revive universities, education. You want more funding. Those require different methods. You need to persuade. You need to convince. You need to mobilize. So you don't go on trying to do that.
That is dispute of interest. Different from dispute of rights.
Again, these are all technical.
Thank you for the education.
So now the labor market is also specialized field. It's like capital market. But fortunately, we look at labor as if it's also when the only center for trouble. Which is also wrong. Which means we should also avoid, in a way, to do indirect labor until they start striking before we know their importance. We must deliberately cultivate them, motivate them, and make sure after you pay them, you motivate them very well. You cannot demand for productivity, which is also important. We also don't talk of crisis of productivity.
It's important.
What do people do at work? You pay them, what do they do?
Not just sitting down idle.
Yeah. So that's the way we can drive our economy out of the crisis we have at hand.
Thank you so much. I will let you also talk to us about your experience. You are a comrade, How is it working inside the government?
I think I should also ask you. You used to be a state actor.
I'm not the one in the seat.
And now you are now a non-state actor.
Well, I started as a journalist.
But if you can do it elegantly, I'm really it's two sides of the same thing. Very well. It's continuation of the same thing I've been doing before. I don't also forget that to some extent, even the trade union movement also has some state component.
Absolutely.
Don't forget we are registered by law.
Absolutely.
We used to serve in different boards to represent workers. Absolutely. So, but it's an interesting experience for me. As a director general now, I need to see things from a bigger picture. Not just narrow. I need to balance the tripartite institution, the government, employers of labor, and of course labor itself, and gives me an advantage to do so. But it also helps so much. For us to now know that no one perspective can address the issues.
That's true.
You need to have a broader, balanced view to get things done very well. And this is where I used to talk to my comrades that they should see some of us who are now active in the state. Am I communicating?
Right.
As asset. Just like we see them as assets, so that we can work together. That's why at the height of this Dangote Nupeng thing, I was not comfortable when I saw Nupeng issue statement over Comrade Adams Oshomole. I thought Adams was making a very good point. Adams says so that no, it's fundamental human right to unionize. And he said Pengassan has the right to unionize. Nupeng has the right to unionize. Himself has been an organizer.
Of course.
He did not meet Aliko Dangote in the dinner party. It was during the struggle.
In the trenches.
Very well. But I said no. But in the course of doing so, you don't apply methods that will undermine sustainable enterprise and investment. I thought people like Adams could rather be a good mediator.
True.
We need to constantly. He has seen it all. He's now in the Senate.
Yeah.
He has been a governor. He paid more than minimum wage when he was a governor. He made a statement on that.
Fair to him.
So we can't do comrade on comrade violence to ourselves. Am I communicating? But there are some things I won't even say here. But you also know that I inherited 2 unions when I got to Minils.
I know.
When I got there, my enthusiasm, as a comrade, I registered the third one. There are 3 unions, but when it's time you want to also be available to fight you. Then you also have to manage them, but I don't want to return back to that.
Absolutely.
So, but what I'm saying here is that I think it's important that all of us, non-state actors as they are now, when they become state actors, they have to see that, depending on where you are, issues are much more complicated.
Right.
But the bottom line, they are well working for the same country.
And to piggyback on that,
we can,
whether we are outside or we are inside,
Yeah.
the public interest is what is important.
Consistent.
We push it from inside, we push it from outside.
Yeah.
But what is happening to Labour Party, by the way? This was supposed to be a party for workers, put up a very good stunt in 2023, getting about 5 million votes and then giving a lot of people the leverage to go to the House. There were candidates of Labour Party who had no poster. Today they are senators, today they are House of Representatives. But the party has lost that favor, that power. Comrade, I have to ask you that question. What do you think happened?
Yeah, maybe we'll talk about what did not happen.
Okay.
I think what did not happen is also the fact that we did not keep up to the trajectory, of the vision of the Labour Party. It was formed by when Comrade Adams was in office, and we just thought that we cannot just be voting cows.
Yeah.
We cannot just be people that politicians mobilize to come and vote for them. Bankers are in government, they're in politics. Generals are in politics, traditional rulers are in politics. Why not the working people? Just in line with what happened in UK, other countries of the world, they have Labour Party. Even in Australia, they have, Labour Party is a big thing. Even US, it's only that when election comes in, they go to the Democratic Party as a platform. So that's the whole idea. It used to be Social Democratic Party. Then later on, we make it in our name. But when we were there, we were clear. In fact, Comrade Adams started his campaign under Labour Party. Right. But of course, the real politics shows that Labour Party never had the kind of muscle. So we now have to ally with ACN that time, and good deal. ACN produced a deputy, and then we produced the governor, and now it's history. Of course, later on, Comrade Adams did 2 terms as governor, and he brought Labour values to the table, But that time, we also differentiated Labour from the trade union movement, so that we don't have conflict of interest. Am I communicating? Right. Labour must have its own leadership, Am I communicating? Yeah. Although some drawn from the...
You mean Labour as in Labour Party?
That's a Labour Party.
Yeah,
and then they also have, so that you don't have conflict of interest, which is not impossible in the world of war. But if I have to let you know, I also ran under the Labour Party. I ran 20...
That's in
Kwara as governorship.
Okay.
Yeah.
In 2019, you mean?
2019.
Right.
Yeah. And although later on, we also have to do alliance, which led to Otoge for obvious reasons.
Which was a very powerful movement in a way.
Yeah. So, but increasingly now, what I know clear, quite some time now, is that you could also see that the last contest, when the Labour Party as a brand is sold very well.
Yeah.
But also, there has been crisis that has rocked it.
Yeah.
Because the structures are not kept to the way we used to know it. The principles are also not there. Am I communicating? If I share this with Peter Obi, when I said, Excellency, you are running under our party, but at least you have to even pretend that you're comrade like us. Where is your voice on things like living wage, minimum wage?
And what did you say?
Yeah, well, let's leave that off.
But that
I was also just being sarcastic.
Yeah.
I would also say, wait, okay, you are even running, as you are already running, but you must also show some labor values. If you couldn't, at least the worst case scenario, your running mate could be a labor man or a labor woman. Am I communicating?
Yes.
But they are all raw politicians. Am I communicating?
Right.
Who are different agenda than Labour, but it's not history. Am I communicating? And of course, that also moved from Labour Party to obedience. You get what I'm saying? Personalization, what it entails. But I'm not here to discuss that politics now. But what I'm saying here is that I think the Labour Party that we know should be part of a broader progressive movement. Am I communicating?
Yeah.
And what is progressive movement? Your politics.
Yeah.
It's not just that you have office. What do you stand for?
Right.
For instance, if you're under Labour Party, issues are going on now. What do we stand for? Am I communicating?
Right.
You are talking of violation of minors, you know. You know, there's a new law now to punish all these criminals who harass poor girls, you know, minors and the rest of them.
Yes, yes.
So if you are under Labour Party, what's your contribution there?
To all of that.
What's your contribution about reindustrialization? You know, about reviving textile factories.
The party has been completely silent about all these things.
What's your attitude about life after work? You know, pension. You know,
retirement.
Yeah. So those are the things that will make people to resonate. What otherwise it becomes Labour Party just a name, not in the content we know it.
Thank you so much.
But you know, the struggle continues.
The struggle continues. I like it.
Yeah.
It's a very good point to end the conversation. And this has been a very useful and insightful conversation.
Thank you. Only I didn't bargain for some of these.
That's why it's quite exciting.
Yes.
And you're doing very well, even as a comrade in government. You know, like we both said, it is the public interest that is most important, whether we're outside.
The last quick one I also had to read. Well, I don't know whether we're for the time, but it's also say that we have to be deliberate to really capacitate labor market institutions. You know, if we have to address this unnecessary dispute that we have in the world of work, strike. Ministry of Labor is the oldest ministry in Nigeria, as far as 1935. Poorly financed. You also have institutions under them like Nigeria Director of Employment.
Right, indeed.
You have National Productivity Center.
Yeah.
You have the Social Insurance Trust Fund. You know, of course, you have Michael Imudu like our own. I mean, we have to be deliberate to give them resources, capacitate them so that they can create dispute, they can do training, they can aggressively, you know, promote vocational training, digital literacy, which is part of the vision of this government, you know. So it has to be deliberate. In US, Department of Labor is big.
It's big, I know that.
Very big.
Anyway, I mean, that means that there will be subject to discuss when you come back to Inside Sources. Thank you for your voice. Thank you. Thank you for your work at the National Institute for Labor Studies, and thank you for coming to Inside Sources.
Thanks for the support,
All right. And there you have it, another edition of Inside Sources. Like we always say, Nigeria will prevail. Nigeria will prevail partly because we will push the issues, and by the grace of God, we will get a big break. My name is Laolu Akonde. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you, by the grace of God, in the next edition.